Dr. Reese, the allegations from the informant, which were never verified by the FBI, are a critical detail in House Republicans' long-running probe-turned-impeachment inquiry into whether the president used his influence to aid his son's business dealings. What does this do to that inquiry now? Does it effectively kill it?
It doesn't kill it. I mean, if they have additional information, then it could very well continue. But the information that their sources provided, it's clear that it was not credible, it was not truthful, and it's not anything that should be used to go forward with.
As someone who's been an agent, as someone who's worked with sources from first finding them all the way to fruition, what do you think then is missing from this conversation?
I'm curious how they, how he came, how he was developed, how he was introduced. So, the backstory. What's the backstory of the source? I'm always curious. What is the backstory of the source? Where's the source coming from? And there's a lot of information that's being revealed about this source's background, his connections, and his financial status. All of those things are coming out, but it's always understanding the agenda, understanding and being clear on what do they want out of this? What's their goal?
And in your experience, have you ever seen a source be a good informant for years and then suddenly become less credible after?
Well, what I've seen is that sources dry up. They run hot and cold. So one year they may be providing some really good information, some really good intel that can really help you understand what are the threats, what's going on in the community, what do law enforcement, what does law enforcement need to look out for, and then that source may dry up. That source may no longer have access. That source may decide, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. I just don't want to do it. That source may decide that they no longer want to work with that agent. They so with sources you have to really massage them. Really, it's a dance. It's really connecting with that source, getting to know that source. You can't just call a source once a month and think that you're going to build that relationship. And I know as a supervisor and leader in the FBI before I retired, I would tell the agents I worked with, you have to build the relationship. Because as a supervisor, I had to make sure that they were engaging with these sources. Because if they weren't engaging with the sources, they're not talking to the sources, they're not getting the information. And so if the agents aren't getting information from the source, then close the source. Or pass the source on to another agent who's willing to do the work, to nurture that source, to get to know that source. Because you have to understand, the source is a human being. And so you have to be engaged with them. And they have to get to know you. And you want to get to know them. And that's how you really determine whether you feel comfortable with that information. Even though you have to be careful about that trust factor, you still want to be comfortable with them. You still want to be able to feel comfortable about the information that could take you into another direction.
Based on what you've seen from this story, from this FBI informant specifically, do you think the FBI agent should have closed this source?
It's it depends on the type of information that that source was given. That because that source may have been providing some other information. Because you have some sources out there that have different types of access. They have access to drug information. They have access to white collar information. They have access to different violations. And so if you're an agent and you've got a source that's providing different types of information, you want to keep that source open. And then you're going to, if you are a criminal agent, you're working drug investigations, and that source is a national security source, but they have this information on drug matters, then you're going to pass that information on. You're not going to hold on to it. You're going to pass it on.
Dr. Rhonda Glover Reese, thank you so much for lending your expertise here. I really appreciate the time. You are welcome back anytime.
Thank you so much.